This video shows experiments that I ran to compare several AI assistants for Unity, specifically Unity AI, JetBrains AI, and Bezi AI. This is a supplement to the summary video that I made on the same topic. Please see the other video to get the context for these experiments and the conclusions that I drew from the experiments. This video is pretty much live recordings of the experiments. I did some editing, mostly to remove dead time, either waiting for the AI to respond or sometimes when I paused for a moment just to think about what to do next. I hope you enjoy watching these experiments. Please let me know what you think. Okay, so now we have this Unity test bed in a way. We have this polygon city, and we have three different AI assistants running in this configuration. So let's try some experiments. I don't know what's going to happen with all these. I tried a few things ahead of time to make sure everything was working, but I don't know what the results of the experiments will be. So let's start with something easy. We will go first to the Unity AI assistant, which has this window embedded within the Unity editor. And I'm going to type, "What can you do for me?" So let's see what it has to say. So the question is being prepared. It's being sent up to the Unity cloud. And here's an answer. So here's what Unity AI says it can do for us. Answer Unity questions, write and debug code, guide you through Unity AI tools, help with Unity packages, assistant with game design and development, automate workflows, debug and optimize. There's a lot here. Multiplayer and networking, and so forth. Okay, well, we asked a question, we got an answer. Let's try JetBrains AI. So here's the JetBrains Rider IDE with one of the scripts that I wrote. We can bring up the AI chat, and I'm going to ask the same question. What can you do for me? And so it's generating an answer, and there may be some similarities here. Code search and navigation, code analysis and documentation, version control support, web search integration, text search capabilities. So these are all very code-oriented, not surprising because this AI is really part of the code development environment. Okay, let's try the same in Bezi. So Bezi runs in its own application, and it has this simple chat window, and it's saying what can it help with, and I'm going to ask it, what can you do for me? And it's thinking, coming up with an answer. All these take a few seconds because all of these are going to a cloud. Sends back some text, game development tasks, asset and code discovery, coding and scripting, debugging and troubleshooting, learning and guidance, documentation. Okay, well, that was a quick experiment. All three AIs are running. They can all answer questions. Okay, let's try another experiment. And incidentally, as we go forward, I may edit out the waiting time when I ask an AI to do something, because otherwise there will just be a lot of waiting for seconds at a time. Once again, I will ask the same question to all three AIs. And what I'm going to do is, there's this Unity asset called the NPC Populator, which I created some years ago. I wonder if these AIs even know what it is. So let's start first with Unity AI. I'm going to say, what is the NPC Populator? And here's the answer. The NPC Populator is likely a Unity tool or asset designed to help developers efficiently populate their game environments with non-player characters. So that is actually, it sounds like it doesn't know, but it was a really good guess. Automated NPC placement, behavior assignment, customization options, performance optimization. All right, this is reasonable. Um, and it also mentions that this project contains a user manual for the NPC Populator version 2.1. So that's pretty good. Okay, let's try uh, JetBrains AI. I will say, what is the NPC Populator? All right, it's searching through the project. Okay, interesting. So it may not have known ahead of time, but actually, just as the Unity AI did, JetBrains AI is looking through the project. And I don't see any direct references to an NPC populator in the code base, although actually it is an asset in this project. Could you provide, so it's asking me more information. Can I provide more context? I also noticed it here, this is another interesting thing. Um, JetBrains AI lets us change what large language model we want to use. And frankly, I would not know which of these to choose. And I don't think a typical Unity developer is going to know which of these to choose. I almost think this is the wrong level of information to provide to the developer because I don't know if I would get better or worse results if I chose something different. Okay, let's also check Bezi. What is the NPC populator? It says it'll help me to understand what the NPC populator is in this project, and it's getting more information. So it's searching the project, searching the files. And actually, it's this is a pretty good answer. It found in the project uh, some specifics about the asset. It has a waypoint system. It has a behavior system. Um, has these features: intelligent waypoint placement, realistic NPC movement, how it works. It has a project structure. Um, I'm going to say in this case, I think Bezi had the best answer, and the answer was actually right inside this Unity project. Okay, let's try something else. All three AIs claim that they can explain code and help us understand what a piece of code does. So let's try that out. I'm going to bring up JetBrains Rider and turn off the AI capabilities for a moment or hide them. Really just use this now as a code editor, which I do use routinely. This is a function that I wrote a while ago. It's called calculate bounds of nav mesh. What does this function do? Um, if a Unity navigation mesh has been created on the scene, this function will determine how big that nav mesh is, and it stores it in a variable called nav mesh bounds. I think it's not so obvious what this function is doing. It's actually most obvious from the title. Um, calculate bounds of nav mesh. From the lines of code, I don't think it's super obvious what it's doing. So, um, so let's ask all the AIs if they can explain it to us. Since we have JetBrains up, we can start here. Um, Maybe we should start a new chat so it's not confused with the earlier questions. Uh, Please explain what the function calculate, sorry about that, calculate bounds of nav mesh does. And I'm actually going to just copy that so I can use the same query later. And let's see what JetBrains AI tells us. All right, the function is responsible for determining the boundaries of the nav mesh in the Unity scene. That's exactly right. How it works, and it has some notes here about what the lines of code are doing. Calculates a bounds object. This is all correct. So actually, JetBrains AI did a good job with this. Let's try Unity AI. We can start a new conversation. I'm going to paste in the same question. Please explain what the function calculate bounds of nav mesh does. The calculate bounds of nav mesh function is part of the AI navigation system in Unity. Not exactly, I wrote it. I don't think that makes it part of Unity's system. It calculates the axis aligned bounding box. That's true. That encapsulates the entire nav mesh in the scene. Purpose, return value. Okay, this is also true. This function is part of the AI navigation package. No, it's not. It's a function that I wrote. But the explanation of what it does is correct. Okay, let's try Bezi. Maybe we should again clear that out and put this in as a new question. It actually tells us what it's doing and looking in different files. That's interesting. Interesting. And it's actually telling us that it found this in two different files, the same function. I think that's true. I think that I used the same function in two different places. How it works. And the purpose is different in the two places. In one place, it's creating the bounds to randomly spawn NPCs. And in the other place, it's creating the bounds of a grid system for placing waypoints. Very good answer. Bezi had a very good answer. And actually, all three had good answers. I would say that the Unity AI was incorrect in saying that this function was part of an AI. It was part of a Unity package because it's not. It's a function that I wrote. Okay, so next, let's try to make the AIs do something instead of telling us something. So I've scrolled the scene view to look at the top of this building, and there's a billboard sign here. Let's try to have the AI make the billboard just rotate around. But we want a few copies of the billboard, so let's also have the AI make some copies. And one other quick thing, the scene view and the game view don't match. They're showing two different things. I always forget exactly how to make them the same. So I asked Unity AI when the camera was not running, how do I make the game view show the same thing as the scene view? And it gives a very good instructions here. And what I need to do is select the camera and then choose align with view. So I'll scroll through the hierarchy. Here's the main camera. And then if I say game object, align with view, and that worked perfectly. So this kind of help or assistance from the Unity AI works great. The other tools, can work similarly, but I would expect Unity's own AI would be quite good at this kind of thing. Okay, let's go back to this billboard that we want to rotate. I will select the parent object, and let's start with Unity AI. Now we can attach things to the AI. So let's click on attach and selected. There we go. We have this selected. So now we have this billboard is attached to Unity AI. It knows that that's what we're talking about. So I'm going to try a prompt. Please make a copy of the attached object. Keep it on top of the same building, but move it over enough so that it will not overlap. And I should say also, at the beginning of this, we should put run. So there's actually these three copies, or these three options for Unity AI. We can ask it things, we can tell it to do things to code, or we could just tell it to run things. And in this case, let's have it just run and just do this. So if this works, it will make a copy of the sign. So let's see what happens. So it tells us what it will do. It'll make a copy of the attached object, and it knows what the object is. We could put a different object here if we wanted to. And it will be moved an offset of 5 in X. So we can just tell it to run. And it did it. So here's our copy right back here. So let's see, where's that? Where is that now in the hierarchy? It's right here. I'll choose the parent object. And actually, maybe I'll move that over here so it's a little bit more that we can see them sort of side by side. All right, we'll put that one right here. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's now go back to the first one and tell it to rotate. So I've selected the first billboard object, selected, I'm doing another run command, and I will say rotate the attached object around the y-axis. Maybe that'll go very fast. Why don't we say rotate the attached object somewhat slowly around the y-axis. That's not very quantitative. We'll see what the AI does with that. So we'll ask it to do this. So here, rotate around the y-axis. It added, okay. So if we tell it to do this, it will create a new C# component called update rotator for the attached object, which is a parameter, and the speed 10 degrees per second. And the run is grayed out. I think first I have to save the C# component. So I will do, oh, it's actually asking where I want to do that. Why don't I create a new folder, which is, let's call it generated scripts. Why don't we save it in here? And in fact, why don't I update rotator? Why don't I call this Unity AI update rotator? Because we will ask the other AIs to do that too. So we save that. Okay, why don't we run it now and see what happens? Perhaps I need to actually run this as a game to have it work. So we'll see what happens. Okay, well, it's not rotating. And I'm wondering if this could be because I changed the name. Let's try to find this component. Or maybe okay, actually, no, here's the script we just created. I'm going to put this onto the billboard object. Let's give it a rotation speed of 10. Actually, it came up with 0. And now let's try to run it. Okay, now it is rotating. So it seemed as though the Unity AI generated the script, did not actually put it onto the object. But when I did it, then it worked. Let's try the same thing in Bezi. So now we have this other copy of the billboard that we created before so that we could try it again. Let's bring up Bezi, and in fact, let's make yet another copy so that we could try to do it again using our third tool, JetBrains AI, after this. So similarly to Unity AI, Bezi has a notion of objects that it's using. So if I click on this, it knows that it's referring to this object. And Bezi, its normal mode is to ask, but it has in beta mode an agent mode, which is where it actually does things. So I'll give it a similar prompt. I don't remember exactly the words I used before. So I'll just say, rotate the selected object fairly slowly around its y-axis. And in Unity, people probably know this, y-axis goes up. The ground plane is the x versus z axis. Okay, so let's tell Bezi to do this. And it's creating a script called the slow y rotator. And we can, again, just put this on our object. Looks good. We could say accept. Now it tells me that in the inspector, I can just look for slow y rotator. So that makes it sound as though this has already been added someplace. So let's try that. So in the inspector for this billboard, I will say add component. And I want the slow y rotator. So I've added that. And it's giving it a speed of 30. Let's try running. All right, both billboards are rotating. This one, the script came from Bezi. This one, the script came from Unity AI. Just fast forwarding a little bit to show that essentially the same thing can also be done using JetBrains AI. I selected the billboard, made a duplicate of it that I dragged over here. I need to go into this copy and remove the script that we generated. I then went into JetBrains Rider, where I have JetBrains AI. I asked it to, I told it what the selected object was, told it to rotate the selected object fairly slowly around its y-axis, and it generated the script. Now, I don't see a nice, easy way using JetBrains AI to push a button and have it deployed. Yeah, the problem is that somehow JetBrains AI generated this as a C++ script rather than a C# script, which is a bit weird. I typed this question into JetBrains AI. Why did you generate this in C++ instead of C#? C# is required for Unity. And actually, the JetBrains AI assistant said, I apologize for my previous response. You are absolutely correct. It's supposed to be C#. So this is really crazy. I asked JetBrains AI why it keeps generating C++ scripts by default for Unity instead of C#. Interesting thing about these AIs is that you can ask them questions about why they made a mistake. And in fact, the AI assistant apologized for providing a C++ script and admitted it made a mistake and should usually use C#. And then says the confusion arose because my initial message included the line, provide solutions using the C++ language. I never said that. I think this must be somewhere in the configuration of the JetBrains tools. I don't know where that's coming from. Probably something small that JetBrains could fix. It might be a configuration issue. But kind of funny that that it seems to have that issue and default to C++. For another scenario, to show how the AI tools, or at least some of them, can directly position game objects within the scene, I've repositioned our scene view so that we're looking at sort of a street intersection. And also, we have some human models. We can look in the inspector. Within the asset that I created, the NPC Populator, there are 6 included human figures. So actually we can select them all, go to the AI assistant, and I've already attached these. So for a prompt, and I've already typed this, so I will just paste it in. I could say, randomly put 10 human models selected from the attached ones at random locations that are visible within the scene view. Then randomly rotate each model around the y-axis so that they're all facing in different directions. They aren't all lined up like soldiers or something. And each model should be on the ground. That might seem obvious, but we don't know what the AI knows and what it doesn't know. And if we don't say that, maybe some of the AIs or some of the human models would be levitating. So let's try running that and seeing what happens. So the AI has actually written a script that does it. And why did it write a script? You know what? Um, because I forgot to say to just run it. So the script would be useful. We could paste the script in and run it like that. But actually, I wanted to do it just by running directly. So let's try that again. This time I had the run keyword, which will tell Unity to just do it rather than create a script to do it. So it's actually giving an error saying that it can't do it and unable to generate tasks, avoid complex commands, and try to split large requests into smaller steps. This is interesting because I, in fact, had tried this exact prompt before and it worked. So I don't know why first time it works, next time it doesn't. Okay, let's try it in a more simple way. I'll take some of it off. I'll just have the first sentence. Randomly put 10 human models selected from the attached ones at random locations that are visible within the scene view. Okay, that's simpler than what we had before. And again, that was a run request so that it should actually just do it rather than generating code. Okay, so now it's telling what it will do. It will randomly select amongst these 6 models. They will be placed at random locations visible within the scene view. And each model will be randomly rotated around the y-axis. I did not actually even tell it to do that. Okay, please do it. I'll click the run button, and it did it. So here we have, in fact, we have these 10 random models. And what's interesting is, I think the AI doesn't know the difference between the ground and the top of the car, but still that was pretty good. And it pretty much did what we asked it to. And I will also just quickly show that I had also given a very similar prompt to Bezi before, where I had actually given the longer version. Position 10 random human models from the selected ones, same ones, and position them so that they are visible in the scene view. Rotate each model around the y-axis. Each model should be on the ground. I also said spread the models apart enough so that they do not overlap. As I experimented with this, sometimes they would be really overlapping with each other. I ran that, and Bezi created a script, and not only created the script, but attached the script it generated to a menu. So I have a tools menu with a command place random characters, which will do very much the same thing. So here in Unity, I now have a tools menu, and if I say place random characters, it brings up this dialog where I can place 10 random characters or clear them. So I place 10 characters, and Bezi just put 10 more characters there. And actually, it would be nice to add more and more, although I think if I click this again, Bezi tends to, each time I click this, Bezi tends to clear the ones that already generated and do 10 new ones. Now it should be in what's visible within the scene view. So what if we move the scene view a little bit and look somewhere else? All right, now I don't have any characters. Will this still work? Actually, interestingly, I think what's happening is that instead of taking the current scene view, Bezi is taking what had been the scene view when I issued the prompt. Still, it's very close. Um, this is kind of interesting that the script that it generated is attached to a menu, so I have, in a sense, a new tool. I do kind of like in Unity AI, though, that I can also ask for it to run uh, kind of immediately without even dealing with the script. Um, we can try this one more time. I will copy this whole prompt and let's try JetBrains AI. So here's the same prompt in JetBrains AI. Keep in mind, JetBrains AI doesn't really have that immediate mode. I think this is at best going to generate a script. But, there it goes. And in fact, there it is. It's writing a script. And again, it's a C++ script. Please convert the C++ script to C sharp because Unity uses C sharp, not C++. And it did it. So here's a C sharp version, and I would imagine that if I copy that into a new script and run it, it would probably do what we requested. I'm going to try one more experiment. This one is difficult. I kind of don't expect any of the three AIs to be able to solve it perfectly well, but I'm curious to see how far they can get. This request is going to require multiple steps, almost more of an agentic AI to solve this problem. So we'll see what we get. So I've cleared the human characters that we put in the previous test out of the scene. I've selected just one. Let's go back to the Unity AI assistant. Let's clear out the attached human models and just attach this one human model. And let's create a new conversation. And again, this will be a run request to just do it. Please create a character controller for the attached human model so that I can move the character around in the scene using the arrow keys. So this is difficult for a few reasons. One is that it's going to have to create or find or synthesize somehow a character controller object. It's also going to need animation clips. There actually are some within the project, so maybe it can find them. I don't know. Let's see how far it can get. Okay, so this is what it proposes to do. A new C# component character movement is required to perform this command. Character controller component will be added to this model. A character controller will be configured to match the existing capsule collider dimensions. Okay. A movement script will be added to allow movement using the arrow keys. Okay. I don't know whether I need to click the save button. I bet I do because the run is grayed out. So I will click that. Okay, character movement. It probably needs to put that somewhere. I'm going to put that into the generated script folder that we created before. And now I can click the run button. It's saying that it cannot find this human model. Well, it is attached right here. Oh, it has to go in here too. All right, I'm gonna pop it in there. Let's try again. All right, now it's green. That looks more promising. Okay, something it did do was it created this character movement. It added the character movement script to the character. Let's look at the character movement script. Possibly that would work, but it would need to have a character controller. All right, what happens if I put the character in the scene and then play? Yeah, I think this error, I think I know what this error is, but you know what? You can ask the AI assistant what that error means. I think it means we're using the wrong input system. What does this error mean and how do I fix it? And I'll copy all of this text. And yes, it's happening because the project is using the new input system. The script that the AI generated uses the old input system. And this can be fixed. Actually, without even reading this, I think there's a way to fix it by going to project settings. Let's see, player. I think there's a way to say to use either input system. Here, active input handling. Both. Okay, this will restart the Unity editor. Save. Okay, let's try to run that again. Okay, well, with the arrow keys, I'm actually changing the position of the character, although the character is obviously not animated. It's just like a static object moving around. So what do we give that? A B minus? But let's try it again in Bezi. And let's even go back to the same prompt. Go to Bezi. Let's use a different model. We'll use a male character instead of a female character this time so we can tell the difference. Let's new task, one of the male characters, and put in the same prompt. Please create a character controller for the attached human model so that I can move the character around in the scene using the arrow keys. I actually see this is not, in a way, the best prompt because I probably should have said also create the script that it needs. But let's see what it does. Again, this is in the agent mode as opposed to the ask mode. So we will ask, we will request Bezi to do the same thing. Okay, Bezi's going to create a character controller. Interestingly, Bezi found the script that Unity AI generated and said that it's going to generate a better one. Bezi understands the difference between the old and the new input system, and it's creating something with the older legacy input system. Created a script called Simple Player Controller. Gave us some instructions. Okay, so it's telling us drag our prefab onto the scene and select it in the hierarchy, so I'll do that. Select it in the hierarchy, there it is. Let's look in the inspector. In the inspector, click Add Component and look for Character Controller. It's Character Controller. And it needs to be configured. And Bezi is giving us some instructions. The center should be, it's telling us this should be 0.9. The radius should be 0.3. The height should be 1.8. Add the player controller script. So add component again and search for simple player controller script. Now we've got that. The movement speed should be 5, and it is. Rotation speed should be 10. Gravity is the right value. Jump height is the right. Ground distance is correct. Ground mass should be, that all looks correct. Okay. And the character will respond to arrow keys and WASD keys and the space bar for jumping. And here's some documentation on the animation controller parameters, how it works. Okay, let's give this a try. Save all this, run it. Okay, so this is a little bit better. Still no animation clips. The guy does face in the direction of movement, and he can jump. So Bezi did a little bit better than Unity. Still not perfect. I wasn't really expecting any to do this perfectly. I am wondering whether we could make this work. It seems very close in Bezi. There needs to be an animator controller. I may have made the mistake in the prompt of asking for a character controller. I'm going to type a prompt that says there also needs to be an animator controller. Please generate the needed one. Okay, it says it's generating one, and it's looking for animation clips to use. And it found that there are some walking and running animations available in the project. Okay, it says it cannot create it directly, but it will provide step-by-step instructions. Okay, well, I will follow the instructions. Okay, in the project window, navigate to Assets, Scripts, or create an Assets Animation folder. Okay, right-click and create an animation controller. Animator controller. And name it Humanoid Character Controller. Humanoid Character Controller. Open the animator window and create Speed is grounded and is moving. So over here, Speed is grounded. It's moving. And create these states. I'm going to pause the recording and just follow the steps. So I followed the instructions to some degree that that Bezi provided. I also worked into it some of my own knowledge of animator controllers and changed things a little bit. But now if I run the game and we look at this character here and recalling this one was animated by Bezi, this one was animated by Unity AI, and I use the arrow keys, and now we have the Bezi character is animated in a kind of a crude way. There's a lot of foot sliding, but it does tie the pieces together. It's got animations and animator controller and the script that it needs. So I would say Bezi came the closest to what we asked for, although I needed to make some changes myself to make it all work. And I feel like for completeness, we should also try to run this using JetBrains AI. We already know that JetBrains AI is going to do no more than generate a script, and we need various other assets. So this will not be a complete solution. We could paste in the prompt and see what happens. And actually, in JetBrains, there isn't really a notion of the attached human model. So I'm just going to say, please create, and in fact, I'll fix this, an animator controller for a human model so that I can move the character around using the arrow keys. And we could see what JetBrains AI does with that. Okay, so it's telling us to create an animator controller, that it should have these parameters, telling us to set up a blend tree, which makes sense, that we need to find, here's a diagram of how the animator controller should be structured, and lots of instructions here. We need to find appropriate animation clips, so it isn't all done automatically, but there are guidelines here for how to do it. That's it for these experiments with 3 different Unity AI tools. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Please check out this companion video to see the conclusions that I drew from the experiments.